Hey, it's Catherine with resinobsession.com, and today I'm going to show you how to get a marbled effect in your resin castings. So today I'm using mold 403. I'm using the large cabochon casting wells up in the corner, and I've gone ahead and sprayed our mold with the Casting Craft mold release and let it dry. So what I'm going to be doing today is using a clear resin and then adding in some colored resin to make the marbling effect. So I've gone ahead and mixed up my clear resin, and I'll be using some yellow and some red as well to make the marbled effect. So the trick to this is that you actually want your resin to start curing, or basically be at the end of the pot time before you do the marbling effect. Otherwise, you'll get blending of the colors because the colors will be good and wet. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pour in my clear resin and see how it's pouring very nice and fluid. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it into the wells, make sure I get the bubbles off, and then what I'm going to do is check it about every 10 minutes or so. And once it's thick, basically about to the point of syrup, is when you'll want to add in your colors. And I'm going to tell you, the first few times you're going to need to do this, you're just going to have to experiment and see what works best for the resin that you're using. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cover it, let it cure, check it about every 10 minutes or so, and then hopefully here in a little bit, we're going to get some swirl colors. Hey, it's Catherine again, and our resin is right at the what I would call syrupy stage, and you can see you put your toothpick in and you can see how it's nice and thick here. And so now what I'm going to do is add in the resin a few drops at a time, and there's no right or wrong to this, obviously. Just kind of do what you are artistically inclined to do, and then we're going to just make some really neat swirl patterns with it. Okay, now as you go to cut through and make your swirl patterns, you want to be really careful because your resin is thick. And so at this point, if you get bubbles in there, you may have a hard time getting them out. But you'll just carefully want to cut through your resin. And be careful too, if you're using a toothpick, your toothpick will scratch the bottom of your mold. So just be sure to be extra careful. Be a little ginger with the technique here. And you're going to have a lot of fun with this technique. So obviously the first couple times you do it, you may have to kind of figure out what you like and what you don't like. But as you can see here, I'm just taking the toothpick and I'm running it through the resin just to kind of create some really unique swirl patterns. So once you get what you like, now at this point, you're just going to let your resin cure as normal. Don't forget, you're going to want to cover it with a dome. Make sure and keep it dust free. So let's let this cure and we'll come back in a little bit and see what it looks like. So it's been 24 hours and I have demolded our castings from the mold. And as you can see, we kept the nice swirl patterns that we put in yesterday. I'm very happy with how these turned out. We kept some really neat designs here. Now, in case you're wondering what happens if you do try this technique while the resin is still very fluid and very wet, this is exactly what happens. And this piece started out like the other two, where I had some yellow on one side and the red on the other, and had poured in the clear ahead of time, and you can see everything just blends together. So, I mean, this is still an interesting piece, but obviously it doesn't keep the nice swirl patterns and keep them distinctly like these do. So if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave them in the boxes below this video. If you get a minute, stop by our blog and jewelry making forum. We're happy to answer your questions you have about resin jewelry making. Okay, go make something fun.